Hello everybody, welcome to today's episode of House of Tallysha with me, Isabel Tallysha-Soares. Today we are surrounded by blue. We are on a pier over the mighty Tagus River. The river which is the major river in the Iberian Peninsula. We are in Vila Franca de Xira in Portugal. And we are here today because this river plays an important part in my novel, I From Nothing, here in the Portuguese original by Cool Books, Eu do Nada. First, some geography. This river runs from Spain to Portugal, and its mouth is in Lisbon, some 30 kilometers to west of where we are, Lisbon, the Portuguese capital. And this river divides Portugal in two halves. North, where we are, so we are in the north shore of the River Tagus, and south, the great beyond of the plains over there. To the east of me will be Spain, to the west, Lisbon and the mighty Atlantic Ocean. And little known fact is that it was from here, from Vila Franca, around 1 mile to the east of where we are, that the fleet of Bartolomeu Dias, the navigator, the Portuguese navigator, that managed to contour the southernmost tip of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, set sail to his epic voyage. As we know, history tells us that Bartolomeu Dias got to the Cape of Good Hope in 1488, and he set sail from where we are, more or less, give or take 1 or 2 miles. So you can imagine this waterfront that was full with the caravels of the great navigator Bartolomeu Dias. But as I told you, this river is very important to I From Nothing and to the people of the farm Nothing, which is located somewhere between this river and a mountain, a majestic mountain, a little bit north from here. So between that mountain and this river lies Nothing, both the fictional Nothing and the real Nothing upon which this novel is based. And this river played many parts in the lives of those who inhabited Nothing, both joyful parts and both parts full of sorrow. Come join me to discover a little bit more of the role played by this river in I From Nothing. It is hard to imagine that this very peaceful blue river could have become a monster. And that is exactly what happened on the night of the 25th November 1967. A chapter that is documented here in I From Nothing, but which is still documented in the lives of this region of Vila Franca de Xira and the lives of the people of Nothing. Well, there are perfect storms in the worst case scenario. And what happened on that 25th of November 1967 was one of those perfect storms where everything went wrong. There was a succession of very intensive rain on that night. Where we are, the river is still tidal, and it was high tide. So the combination of very heavy rain and an exceptionally high tide, because to make matters worse, it was an incredibly high tide, some 4 meters high. And so that combination led to a flood of devastating consequences in this region up until Lisbon. So this is where the catastrophe hit the hardest. And that natural phenomenon and the ensuing catastrophe is one of the major natural catastrophes of Portuguese history after the earthquake in Lisbon of 1755. Around 700 lives were lost because Portugal at the time was ruled by a dictatorship. The official number of the deceased and the people who had vanished and disappeared, engulfed in the raging waters, was left at 462. And only years later did we find out the enormous quantity of lives that were lost in that day. All of that is here in I From Nothing because the farm was hit and people were dead and characters were lost also. No spoilers, but a bit of a spoiler here. So that night of the 25th of November 1967 is sadly a part of this book because it represents the true element and the real element which is imbued in I From Nothing, because reality is always more influential than fiction. So let's find a little bit more of other landscapes that were hit by that flood in 1967. We are just parallel to the River Tagus. This street was flooded and submerged on that fatidic evening of 1967. The river actually runs just behind these buildings. Where I am is where one of the pictures of the devastation was taken immediately after the waters receded. And you can see and you can fathom the major cleanup that had to take place here to restore the street to how it was. The trauma caused by the devastation of the 1967 floods still lives on in the collective memories of the people of Vila Franca de Xira and vicinity and the area around. So much so that very recently an exhibition was held here at the local museum of Vila Franca titled The Floods of '67. And photos that I'd never seen before, footage that had never been seen before, were exhibited here in a very wonderful and brilliant exhibition so that we can know better both the impact of the floods and the censorship that exerted control over the information that we got to know about the floods. I'm actually using the catalog of the exhibition to highlight some footage and pictures of that era, of that fatidic evening and of the ensuing catastrophe in the forthcoming days and weeks. So the local museum of Vila Franca de Xira really did a great job in highlighting and bringing forth never seen documents and photos and images never seen before of that natural catastrophe. We finish where we started, or as we started, on the shores, on the margins of the River Tagus. I hope you have enjoyed discovering a little bit more of both the River Tagus and some spoilers of I From Nothing, Eu do Nada, from here, Vila Franca de Xira in Portugal. As always, it has been a pleasure coming to you and showing you some of the wonders of this fantastic place we all inhabit, this gorgeous planet and some of its majestic, magnificent landscapes. And this one in particular is very close to my heart and described here in Eye from Nothing. Well, if you enjoy these sorts of contents, subscribe the channel, leave comments and suggestions on the boxes for comments and suggestions precisely. I am Isabel Tallysha-Soares, and I hope to see you next time because, as you know, I will be waiting for you.